For nearly the past 40 years, the Jeep Wrangler has constantly been the vehicle of choice for off-road enthusiasts out there that also wanted to get a lot of customization out of their vehicle. And when Jeep introduced the very successful JL Wrangler, the 4th generation, back in 2018, I was pretty much blown away with nearly every variant that I had a chance to drive. Now for 2023, the Wrangler pretty much stays put, although Jeep has constantly introduced new variants and trims over the years to keep this model fresh. But as you can see, this week, we are testing a really cool addition, which is known internally as the Jeep Wrangler Willys. It takes a lot of heritage design cues from the military Willys Jeeps of the 1940s. However, this model, as you can see, also has the Extreme Recon package, which means we get these massive 35-inch tall BF Goodrich KO2 tires and some suspension goodies from the very capable trail-rated Rubicon trim. So if you guys have always had your eye on a Jeep Wrangler JL body style, how does the brand new 2023 Willys trim stack up? Stay tuned to find out. Now, before we start talking about the exterior styling differences of the Willys trim, the Wrangler is available in so many different configurations, including a lot of engine choices, up to 5 engine choices. However, this model here has the motor that a lot of consumers are probably going to pick because it's a no-cost option and you get more torque versus the base Wrangler's 3.6-liter V6. Now you can see underneath the hood of this Wrangler, this is the company's 2-liter turbocharged direct injection 4-cylinder. This 4-cylinder we've seen used in a lot of other Stellantis products. And in this model, it still makes the same power as it did when it was first introduced, 270 horsepower and 295 pound-feet of torque. It all goes out through an 8-speed automatic transmission that is built by ZF, and all Wranglers essentially come with full-time 4-wheel drive or part-time 4-wheel drive. This model here also has a full-time system where you have an automatic setting in the 4-wheel drive system, and the Extreme Recon package also includes a limited slip rear differential, which again is going to help with traction when you're taking this vehicle off-roading. Now in terms of fuel economy, in case you're wondering, this model here is rated at 21 in the city and 24 on the highway, about 22 combined, which is actually not bad considering the fact that this is a gigantic brick going through the air and driving down the road. This vehicle doesn't have a 0 to 60 performance quoted from Jeep, but we've got our testing equipment. We'll see what we can do. It's got a top speed of around 97 miles an hour. So again, these big tires aren't great for actually being out on the road. Wranglers are able to tow about 3,500 pounds if you get the tow package. And this model here, because of the Extreme Recon package, is a lot heavier versus a Wrangler Sport, for example. As this one sits, it weighs in at just over 4,800 pounds. Now closing the hood, let's go ahead and talk about the exterior styling of the JL Wrangler in the Willys trim. Now first of all, this is a new color that Jeep is introducing for 2023. It's called Earl Gray Clear Coat Metallic. It's actually kind of Jeep's version of Ford's Cactus Gray. I really love this color, especially on the Wrangler. In the Willys trim, you also get some unique styling cues here, especially when you look at the front end. You can see it's got a completely gloss black front end, and you also have some gloss black elements in the plastic front bumper. You cannot get the steel bumper group that you can get on the Rubicon, so instead all Wrangler Willys have the plastic bumper along with the black tow hooks, but you can see there are some gloss black accents here on the lower bumper. I love the gloss black 7-slotted grille, which you can see you cannot get the front trail cam on this model like you can on the Rubicon. This Willys model also includes full LED headlights, which are standard. Which includes LED daytime running lights. It's a halo ring along with an accent here on the fender. And then you also have LED turn signals. The base Willys Sport actually will have halogen headlights, which I think looks extremely cheap. I would definitely spec out my Wrangler with the full LED headlights, which just gives it a much more modern appearance. Now you can see down underneath here, this model also comes with skid plates, and because of the Extreme Recon package, Jeep has lifted up the suspension by about 1.5 inches, and we also get the shocks from the Rubicon trim. In total, this model here with the 35-inch tall tires has nearly 13 inches of ground clearance, so 12.9 basically puts you in the same spec as something like a Bronco Raptor, which I believe has a little over 13 inches of ground clearance. But looking around the side, you can see the Unlimited trim, which is the 4-door, accounts for about 75% of all Wrangler sales. So I remember when Jeep first introduced the 4-door, over 20 years ago. A lot of enthusiasts were upset. However, most people end up buying this version because it's just so much more darn practical. Now let's get a closer look at these wheels. You can see these BF Goodrich all-terrain KO2 tires are wrapped on this 17-inch beadlock capable wheel. Love the fact that it's got kind of a gunmetal gray finish. It's a 17 by 8-inch wheel, so it's a little bit of a thicker, fatter wheel. And with these 35-inch tall tires, they're a 315/70. It really just gives this truck or SUV a really great stance. Remember, this vehicle still has live axles front and rear. It still uses a body-on-frame design, so in theory, it's technically a truck, but it doesn't have a truck bed. Because of the recirculating ball steering, it is a little bit more clumsy to drive out on the road. Now, looking at the fender flares here, you can see on the Willys you get, first of all, let me talk about this. This is the heritage inspired decals, but with the Extreme Recon package, they actually add this little lip here because they need the clearance to make room for the 35s. You cannot get these as body colored like you can on the Rubicon. The Willys includes it as just black. You can see more black accents here, or black for the Jeep and the Wrangler logo over there. Typical Wrangler fashion, you have really nice elements like exposed screw heads, and you can also take these doors off. You can take the entire roof off. You can fold the windshield down. That's always been the appeal of Wranglers. The mirrors, you can see, are black painted, and then you have these door handles, which are also black painted with this really cool kind of retro inspired keyhole or key cylinder to actually use your key fob if you so insist to do so. Now looking over at the back here, you can see the gas cap is completely exposed. That's kind of a throwback to the original Willys Jeep. And then looking at the rear here, you can see this model also includes the full LED taillights, which look fantastic. That was one of the reasons why I loved this generation so much when it first came out. And then because this is the Extreme Recon package and it's a Wrangler, you must have a full-size spare, which on this model here, it's a full-size matching spare with an alloy, you can see. And you have a reinforced hinge here on the rear gate because, again, this wheel and tire package is huge and it's heavy, and Jeep wanted to make sure that you can actually carry this on the back when you go out on the trails. Again, this is all factory built, so you don't have to worry about stuff breaking. Now, opening up the cargo area, you can see you have this side swinging door back here to get into the cargo area. And then with the hardtop, you can see there's a flip-up rear glass, which the 4-door model gives you way more cargo space than the 2-door at 31 cubic feet overall, which is pretty usable. Underneath here, there's actually a little bit of underfloor storage, and if you fold down the second row seats, that expands it out to around 72 cubic feet of space. So 72 is actually very useful, which is one of the reasons why a lot of people tend to choose the 4-door model for its practicality. So the Willys version of the Wrangler definitely looks the part on the outside, but let's go ahead and take a look at the interior of this truck. You can see here's the key fob for the Wrangler. This is one of the few vehicles that still offers a switchblade style key. Again, you could technically use the key to open up the vehicle manually with that cylinder lock, which is very, very old school, but most of you are probably going to use the remote access. You can see it has the lock, unlock, remote start from the fob, and panic buttons, and you can also remote start this vehicle through your phone app, through the Jeep app, if you guys have access to that, if you are the owner. Now you can see if you want to lock the door, you just push that button here, that locks the door, and then there's a sensor on the back of the handle that will unlock the door for you as you approach the vehicle. Remember, these doors are removable, which is one of the reasons why the Wrangler is such an appealing vehicle to off-road enthusiasts. Now you can see the Earl Grey exterior is complemented by this black cloth interior. You can also get a heritage tan cloth interior, but you cannot get leather on the Willys trim. So that's one of the reasons why you want to step it up to the Sahara trim or the Rubicon trim. Some of you may prefer the cloth. It's actually a nice, decent feeling cloth seats. The seats themselves are relatively comfortable and supportive. You have a height adjustment and you have a manual lumbar, and you can also adjust the seat back and move it forward and back. So I believe it adjusts in like 6 different ways, plus the adjustable lumbar. But again, no power seats are available on any Wrangler, and these seats are also not heated. It's missing a cold weather package that will also include a heated steering wheel and heated front seats that my tester is missing for $1,000. Now looking at the door panels, you can see this is a hard touch injection molded plastic. The upper trims of the Wrangler actually have a soft touch plastic here. So again, a little bit of cost cutting on the lower trim. It's slightly padded over here where your elbows are rest. Then you have this really nice little storage net where you can put some things in the door pockets, and you also have silver painted door handles. Your power mirror controls are here along with your door lock switch. Remember, Wranglers put the window switch controls in the center stack. Now, this is the rock rail that comes standard on the Willys with the Extreme Recon. This is taken directly from the Rubicon trim. So getting in this truck with its nearly 13 inches of ground clearance, for somebody short like myself, I kind of have to grab this handle here, put my foot on this, and kind of pull myself up into the vehicle. So that's kind of an issue if you guys are a little bit shorter. But once you get in and shut the door, The door has a nice solid thunk. I actually love the way it sounds when it shuts. It almost just sounds very tough and rugged, which is what you want in a vehicle like this. Now starting it up, you can see start-stop button is down here. It kind of gets blocked by the steering wheel. But you can see the Wrangler's interior really hasn't changed in the last 5 years, which we are expecting an updated Wrangler for 2024. And we're also expecting, or at least I am, Jeep to put the Uconnect 5 infotainment system in this vehicle where you have a bigger 10.25 inch display. You can see this is the biggest one you can get at 8.4 inches. The standard display is 7 inches, which again, in a vehicle like this, it's kind of acceptable, but it would be nice to see, what Jeep is planning to do when they upgrade the infotainment system. You can see the dash is all very utilitarian. It's hard touch plastic. You can see the exposed molding here. There you can also see some exposed screw heads. You have some painted plastic trim here on the rest of the dash. The higher trims of the Wrangler, like the Sahara and the Rubicon and the High Altitude, actually have a leather stitch dash, which is kind of surprising to see in a Jeep Wrangler. Now you can see the steering wheel is a relatively standard design. It's got a 3-spoke wheel. It's got leather wrapped. It's not heated. My tester is missing that cold weather group. Like I said, the steering wheel itself offers manual tilt and telescoping, which doesn't offer a good adjustability and range, but for those of you who are shorter like myself, I can get comfortable in this vehicle pretty well. The horn sounds good. It doesn't sound puny. It sounds appropriate given the size of the vehicle. You also have audio controls on the back of the steering wheel along with your cruise control switches. You can see my tester is missing the driver assistance package or driver tech package that will also include adaptive cruise control. Over here are the window controls. You can see you have one touch up and down windows for basically all of them except for the rears. The rears are not one touch. The front are one touch down, but not one touch up, which I've always kind of been annoyed that Jeep doesn't do one touch up and down for the front windows, but hopefully they add that for the next generation or possibly the refresh. You have things like dual zone automatic climate control. You can also turn on and off the start stop feature there. This system here, you can see my phone is connected. However, this is not wireless Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. It's connected via a wired connection here, which again shows the age of the system. But you can see Uconnect 4 is still one of the better systems to use. The graphics look good. It's relatively quick and snappy. There's your factory GPS, which if you want to view the map, you can see is nothing super special, but it gets the job done, and it's just relatively easy to navigate as well. When I put the vehicle into reverse, you can see there's your backup camera, which includes trajectory, and this model here doesn't have parking sensors, but you can get parking sensors on some of the other trims. And you can also get a front camera system, which my tester, again, is missing. It's not available on this trim, I believe. Looking at the rest of the dashboard here, you can see here's the glove box. It's actually pretty small, but at least it's damped. It's a bin style. The rear view mirror here is surprisingly an auto-dimming design, it looks like, but it also looks relatively elegant because it's a frameless look. The windshield, you can see, is almost completely upright. It gives you that kind of commanding view of the road. And then over here, you can see the seats are, this is the black cloth, which it's relatively comfortable and supportive, and the cloth seats don't feel cheap, which is nice. The hardtop, you can see, has these freedom panels, which you can take off by undoing this latch and then pushing that off. These two panels come off, and then you have to remove the rear as one piece. But overall, the interior hasn't really changed much. And you can see the Willys has more of that basic feel, which for a lot of Jeep owners, that should be okay. But let's go ahead and hop into the back seat, because the 4-door model gives you the space that you need if you're going to use this as a family car. Now, I will say, considering how big the Wrangler is, this model is around 188.5 inches long. It's actually a little bit longer because of the spare tire. You get around 38.5 inches of legroom back here, which is fine. Remember, these seats do fold down in a 60-40 manner. And the materials back here are hard touch plastic, just like on the front seats. Again, these doors come off, but getting back here, you can see the Ford Bronco, its main rival, technically has a little bit more legroom in the rear versus the Wrangler. But once you get back here and shut the door, you can see this area here is padded where your elbows would rest. You have 2 storage pockets there. You have rear seat air vents. You have your window controls here. No USB charging ports, but you do have 2 cup holders. And then Jeep doesn't do an armrest here, but you do have some LED lighting in here, which is kind of nice. The fact that Jeep still gives you LED lighting. Unlike the Bronco, this has like a bar here for strength, which that bar is actually added back on the Bronco Raptor for, again, strength. But overall, the back seats are certainly usable for average size adults, but considering how big the Wrangler is, the rear seats are not as roomy as you'd expect it to be given the size. So with multiple versions of the iconic Jeep Wrangler, there's practically a Wrangler for every taste and every budget. And today we are behind the wheel of a car or a trim that is kind of in the middle. This is the Willys trim, which I actually haven't had a chance to drive a Willys yet. Remember, this takes basically a sport Wrangler and adds some of the Rubicon's off-road goodies and its own heritage-inspired design cues here. And this model also happens to have the 2-liter turbo engine, which I actually haven't had a chance to 0 to 60 test before. Jeep doesn't claim any numbers for this vehicle. I've driven pretty much every Wrangler from the Pentastar to the EcoDiesel to the 4xe, which my partner and I own, or my fiance and I own, and of course the 392 with the 6.4 liter Hemi V8. This engine is a no-cost option. It has less horsepower than the V6, but it has more torque. So we've got the 4-wheel drive system in the automatic setting. There are no drive modes for this vehicle, just different 4-wheel drive settings. And we've got an 8-speed auto. Let's go ahead and see what we can get 0 to 60 wise. We'll turn off the traction control. We'll brake torque it. You can feel that turbo lag kick in, and it's like quick once it finally gets the engine up to speed. Now, remember, this model here has the Extreme Recon package, which means we've got these very, very big 35-inch tall tires, and these are going to be a lot of rotational mass to turn. So we got 7.52 seconds 0 to 60 on our usual stretch of road. That is a very respectable time. The 2-liter turbo offers plenty of low-end and mid-range grunt. That's essentially what you want in a vehicle like this, and it's good because you don't want to rev this engine out. It doesn't sound good. It's a very whiny, buzzy, unrefined-sounding 4-cylinder. So I question the need to go with this engine versus the Pentastar. The Pentastar has a much better sound, although you're going to be revving the engine more to get this vehicle up to speed. But I'd argue that I'd rather hear that engine rev versus this motor. Let's go ahead and try it on this little stretch right here. We'll brake torque it again. It's kind of slow to start off, but once you pass 4,000, ooh, there's the boost kicking in. It feels quick, but I gotta tell you, 60 miles an hour feels so fast in this thing. And going more uphill here, we got 8.15 seconds. So again, you don't buy a Wrangler to go drag racing unless you're buying the 392 with the V8. That's the one that you want, because I've clocked a 4.5 second 0 to 60 sprint in something as ridiculous as that. Now, let's go ahead and talk about the driving characteristics of this model here, because it has the Extreme Recon package. Remember, this includes a 1.5-inch suspension lift. It technically has over an inch more ground clearance than the Rubicon trim at nearly 13 inches, 12.9 inches. And these big 35-inch tall 17-inch wheels on beadlock capable wheels. They're 17 by 8. Really, this vehicle, if you guys are used to driving a Wrangler, you know it comes with compromises. This is a live axle front and rear, recirculating ball type, body on frame vehicle. It's very old school, it's very truckish. The steering, as you can see, is so loosey-goosey, and the suspension tune is different on this model. We get the shocks from the Rubicon, in addition to that suspension lift that I mentioned. But what I love about the Wrangler is this kind of tank-like feel. You feel like you can kind of run over anything, go over anything. You have this king of the road, commanding view of the road, which is nice. The steering, however, is very slow to respond out on the road. It's very good out on off-road trails, but in terms of on-road driving, where, let's be honest, most people who own Wranglers, they're going to drive it on the road the majority of the time, makes this vehicle kind of sloppy to drive. Now, I will say that around town, in lower speeds, the Wrangler is just fine to drive. It's on the highways where you're going to notice that at high speeds, this brick doesn't really slip through the air very well. It doesn't track very straight. You constantly have to make corrections to the steering wheel to keep this vehicle going straight ahead. So that's kind of annoying if you're not used to that. But once you kind of set your expectations up for the Wrangler, this is a very nice vehicle to drive, and it has plenty of power. I like the pull, the mid-range grunt that you get. I love how it has an automatic 4-wheel drive setting here, where you can put this vehicle in 2 high, but most of the times I leave it in 4 high automatic, which will revert to rear-wheel drive until the rear wheels slip, then it sends power to the front, which is definitely nice. You can't even get something like that on a Toyota 4Runner, which is hilarious, because the 4Runner also is very, very old, although technically the Wrangler is a newer design. We are expecting Jeep to show us a refreshed Wrangler for 2024. I would like to see the company add their Uconnect 5, a larger touchscreen, which is going to require them to kind of redesign the dash to add something like that. But this Willys model with the cloth seats also is still a relatively comfortable vehicle. My Tester also has the hardtop, the actual hardtop with the hardtop headliner, and that headliner does provide a little bit of sound deadening. But remember, this is a Wrangler. It's not necessarily designed to go off-road or highway cruising in comfort and quiet. Instead, you're going to be enjoying the trails off-roading. But you can remove those freedom panels if you want to enjoy a little bit of sunshine and air, wind in your face. But overall, the Wrangler still drives just how I remember it does. It actually, this model here doesn't feel much different than a Rubicon. Although Jeep will tell you that the capability of this model kind of falls in between a regular Wrangler and the Rubicon Wrangler, although technically we've got bigger wheels. You can get this package on the Rubicon as well. I'd be curious to drive that and see how it feels out on the road. But overall, I still find plenty of charisma with the Wrangler. It's a very charming vehicle to own, to drive. You get to enjoy that Jeep wave, that signature Jeep wave whenever you're driving this vehicle down the road, where people in other Wranglers will actually wave at you as you pass by them. And this model here definitely looks special. I love the Earl Grey exterior color. I love the Willys design upgrades that you get with the heritage-inspired decals and the black grille. The Extreme Recon package also makes for a really badass looking Wrangler. I mean, if you pull up next to a Bronco Raptor in this model, it's not going to look out of place. It's not going to look like a little pipsqueak compared to, you know, Wranglers like if you get a Sport with the very small wheels. Those look a little bit more minuscule, but this model here, these tires and wheels really finish off the package. Now, in terms of driver assistance tech, this is where the Wrangler still falls behind, because you can get this car with a safety tech package that'll include adaptive cruise control and automatic emergency braking, but it's very rudimentary. You can't get active lane keep assist or, you know, traffic jam assist or cross traffic detection, because remember, this vehicle still uses a recirculating ball type steering, so it doesn't allow for that kind of technology just yet. And I wonder, where is Jeep going to go with the Wrangler as you move toward electrification and toward self-driving vehicles? Now, Jeep is working on a fully electric Wrangler, which I am looking forward to eventually driving at some point, and eventually seeing first before we actually drive it. But this model here with the 2-liter turbo, I'd probably say I'd skip it and just keep the Pentastar, even though it's a no-cost option. In terms of fuel economy, I've been averaging around 18.5 miles to the gallon in my week's worth of testing. On the highway, it got around 21 mpg, which isn't fantastic, but remember, it's a brick. It doesn't slip through the air very well. But overall, nice package, very nice looking truck. Or it's a truck body on frame, but it's technically an SUV. But I think the Wrangler to get, most likely, if you guys are trying to save money, would just be get the Pentastar. And then if you want a vehicle that still qualifies for the federal tax credit, the 4xe is also a good option as well. So one of the reasons why the Jeep Wrangler is so successful is because Jeep continues to offer several different variants. There's essentially a lot of flavors for everyone to choose, so there's something for everyone. And it's also one of the reasons why this continues to be one of the best-selling SUVs in America. Jeep consistently sells over 200,000 units every year, which is kind of crazy to think, because Wranglers aren't necessarily cheap anymore, although you can get a Wrangler for just the low $30,000 range if you guys are willing to go for a base 2-door and deal with manual hand crank windows and no power door locks. Now, most people are probably going to go with the 4-door version, which the 4-door itself is around $4,000 more. So again, mid-30s for a Jeep Wrangler is acceptable. And after spending a week with this model here, which is kind of in the middle of the spectrum, there are actually 12, that's right, 12 different trim levels of the Wrangler. That's not including the 4xe trim levels, which if you add those up, that will bring the total to 16 different trim levels as of this filming in November 2022. So again, there are just a ton of different Wranglers to choose from. Now, I have to say, after spending a week with the Extreme Recon package, I love this package. It takes a lot of the off-road capabilities and the tough, brawny looks that we love from the Rubicon trim. However, it offers it to you at a lower base price, because the Willys model basically comes standard with the 32-inch tall tires, and you get more ground clearance versus a base sport version. The Extreme Recon package for an extra $4,000 adds, again, the bigger 35-inch tall tires, the 1.5-inch suspension lift, the flared out fenders, and of course the reinforced rear hinge. It all brings the capability up to near Bronco Raptor levels of performance, although you're not going to get the same kind of engine. Again, this car almost looks like the Wrangler 392 with the 6.4 liter V8, and it definitely got a lot of attention on the road. Sadly, however, if you guys are looking for even better or quicker acceleration, I probably wouldn't recommend the 2-liter turbo. As much as I want to go with the engine downsizing, I don't love the sound of this engine. I probably would stick with the 3.6 liter Pentastar V6, or for those of you who want something really different, you can still buy the Eco Diesel. That's right, a 3-liter V6 diesel in this truck for around $4,000 extra. That is a pricey extra, but you get way more torque and better gas mileage. The 4xe is probably still the Wrangler to get for me because it still qualifies for the $7,500 federal tax credit. But again, you're going to be paying a pretty penny to go with the 4xe. Those start in the low $50,000 range, which you can get the 4xe in the Willys trim now for 2023. Now, keep in mind this model here with the 2-liter turbo and the Extreme Recon package, which technically isn't available on the 4xe, and all the options that this one has. And there's a ton of options. This one here stickers for just under $60,000. That's right, nearly 60 grand, and it's still missing the cold weather group and the driver assistance package, which would add another $2,000. Again, Wranglers, like I said earlier, are no longer inexpensive vehicles if you want them loaded up with good tech. But if you are able to keep those options in check, this is still one of the coolest and best off-road capable vehicles that money can buy, especially if you want something that also has extremely strong resale value. But with all that said, hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on this 2023 Jeep Wrangler's Willys edition. If you're also looking to see the latest vehicles I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.